Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Zimmerman. I am here with the E-Group to do a CEO Handbook interactive learning discussion where we're going to talk about no matrix organization. Thank you all for joining us here today. I would love it if we could dive deep into the no matrix organization handbook page and specifically, talk about what rings true to how we currently operate. And I think the first point I would love to touch on is, what are the benefits of having a technically competent manager?
So I think with a technically competent manager, we don't mean that your manager is really great at assembling furniture, but we mean that it's someone, and we might need a better word, but someone who really understands what you do on a day-to-day basis. So if you're in legal, you want someone who really understands your domain. If you're in privacy and legal, you want someone who's aware of privacy regulations and what a great privacy policies looks like and what a bad one looks like. So the benefits of having a manager who understands your domain, so I would not say a technical, but a domain expert manager, is that you can get better coaching about what's good, what's not good, what you should do to improve, what your opportunities are.
Great, thanks, Sid. And we talk a lot about on this page on no matrix organization about what we're trying to avoid. And I would love to hear from you all, why do we avoid being a matrix organization?
Can't help but go first.
I think it's clarity.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sid.
Go ahead, Todd.
I think it's clarity of decision making and understanding who sets your targets and goals. And it's very clear, it's better to have one person who's your boss to be clear about those things, because that means there's not dissonance between a two manager type of environment where you're both trying to have priorities and set goals for team members.
And I think one advantage of the functional setup that we have is accelerated career development. People want to learn fast. It's a high growth environment. So when you can combine lots of opportunities along with someone who can coach you to the next level, that's a gratifying career experience. And I think you're better able to deliver that, as Sid mentions, when the people you report to have done your job before, are capable of coaching you up to that next level. I think it creates better business results overall. If people are engaged in developing fast, they're going to do better work and be more engaged.
I think it also helps with prioritization because they truly understand what it is that you're working on, how it relates to other projects cross-functionally as well as cross-department. And so I think it really helps for people to get clarity on where they should be spending their time and focus.
Agree on all those points. The clarity from that prioritization and objectives is important, I think, in part because it sets up the team member, the report, for success because they've got clarity, but it also puts a burden of responsibility on the manager to know that they have to be the leader. They have to be the one setting that course and communicating the objectives. When there's multiple potential leaders, that lack of clarity can lead to both or more managers assuming the other has done a good job taking that leadership position, and then perhaps none have.
No, that's really helpful. And then, I think specifically on this page too, I think one thing that I see is a lot of cross-functional sort of collaboration on certain projects or initiatives. And I'd be curious to know when to create a working group. When would be the best time to do that? And how would you actually apply that?
I think of it as there's something that we're just not currently good at as an organization, and it's very cross-functional. And you do a working group for that. And the intent of a working group is to eventually be able to decompose it and turn it back into normal work. whether that it results in a new team or a new responsibility, a new role, or most often just expanding someone's charter so that they own it, and then we don't need a working group to do that thing again.
Great, thanks everyone. And just moving on to question 2, what causes you to pause? What doesn't feel right or isn't happening? Is there something we could be doing differently? Todd, I saw you added something in there. Just if you want to verbalize.
I wanted to call out the difference between a working group and other cross-functional teams that we have working on things that may not be. A working group to me is, like we just talked about, it's something where we're solving a discrete problem and then we want to spin down the working group because we solved it. This is a cross-functional team that is working on something that may not be a discrete problem, but something that could be ongoing. For example, commit, contribute, SCO. SCO is probably the best example that's happening right now. And there's never dotted line reporting, but there's probably someone in charge of that project who is going to make calls and who you may need to, the events team's not directly coming to me to get decisions made about SCO. They're coming to who's leading SCO. And so I just want to call that out explicitly that we have those, and I think they're fine and necessary.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, in looking at like no matrix organization, the page specifically, what can team members do to ensure that we remain a no matrix organization moving forward? Any tangible tips or tricks from your perspective?
I think that every organizational structure has pros and cons. The con of a functional organization is you're aligned by your function. You're not necessarily aligned by a business outcome or a customer outcome. So it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure we understand and we clarify for our teams what's the business outcome we're driving for here. It's not about PM, it's not about engineering, it's not about sales, it's about making our product more usable, for example. Clarifying what those themes are that you're going for, clarifying what the KPIs you're driving, trying to find unifying messages and goals so that multiple teams can all work together towards something that makes a difference. And that's what gets ever harder as you get larger. And so we all have to do a great job of that to hold on to this functional structure as long as possible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Thanks, Scott. And, specifically just regarding no matrix organization, the structure of the page and kind of how it's laid out and how team members embody it, are there any specific changes that you would like to make to help reinforce our no matrix organization moving forward?
I don't like the negative. So we say no matrix organization, which is kind of negative. We could also name the whole page like domain expert manager or single domain manager or something like that. So I'm open to make it better like that.
I like that name. Okay. And just last question there, is there anything else? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Todd.
Sorry, the counterpoint on that is it feels, I like it because it's sort of like we're resisting the temptation to do this. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like it because like, oh yeah, whenever you say, like, it actually is a great reminder whenever you remind us that we're a functional organization and this is what happens when you have a functional organization. It reminds, it's like, oh yeah, no wonder collaboration is sometimes a problem. Like those reminders are really great. So I don't know, that was a little all over the map, but I think I kind of like this as we're going to reject this as long as we can because we don't think it's effective.
Cool. And I think what's also interesting is what's happening in finance with data teams that are kind of cross-domain, but they kind of specialize in like go-to-market or team or product. So they kind of make up, they are kind of a patch on kind of the valleys that are between the different functions without turning it into a matrix organization. I thought that was interesting as well.
And I think we could also think about that with the finance business partners and the people business partners. I think there's a similar overlap there too.
Yep.
All right. Is there anything else left to add regarding no matrix organization before we sign off for the day?
Just like to see us continue to enable our folks on this, since it is different and a different approach. And I want to make sure that people feel empowered to follow it and to live it every day, especially our managers and our new managers.
I agree.
And I think one of the best conversations this can help drive, especially with new managers that have recently joined GitLab, is to force a conversation at all levels about intent when we think of organizational design. I think that it's easy to sometimes think about matrix and overlays and things like that when you take the extra time to be deliberate and really make sure that we are indeed mapping our investment exactly to what we're trying to accomplish. And that's a great outcome in and of itself. So I would encourage all the managers to use this as an opportunity to have that dialogue with the managers and their team, in part to make sure that we're following the structure we've set up, but in part to make sure that we actually do invest in the right areas with intent.
All right. Well, if there's no other points to add, I really appreciate you all having me here today to discuss no matrix organization. It was really a great learning experience, and I hope we continue these moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.